Okay, now that you guys have had a chance to taste that, right? I'm assuming you went ahead and made the demo call and saw what the whole thing was like. So we're going to continue the discussion now, right? How does this affect DML position holders, and what about the new guys stepping in? So just to recap, for those who don't actually know, we have a website called decryptmyleads.com, and on there you can claim a position. And what that means is that you want us to build a project that we're going to split the earnings on. Okay. So that's because you don't know what you want to sell. You're not trying to sell something of your own, but you're saying, let us do all the work. You'll provide the angel funds for it, the investor funds for it. We do the work, and then we split the earnings. Okay. So for instance, say you wanted a particular industry, or you're just going to choose one, okay? And when you ask us for advice, we say things very often like, choose a DUI lawyer, okay? And notice this, the offset, the number here for the offset. An offset of 1 is normal competition levels, okay? Competition can get heavier or easier. So offsets that are lower than 1 are easier. That's usually because the providers in the industry are not very web savvy, or there are not very many of them in a given location. Okay. Offsets greater than 1 are naturally more competitive, and that's usually everywhere the money is. So wherever the best money is usually the highest competition as well. But what it means in our case is that, say, DUI lawyers, accident attorneys, alcohol, drug, and rehab, that's where the money is, and that's where we like to go. So it's more competitive, which for us just means we have to build more websites in that area to take over a greater percentage of the total visibility, okay, so that we can pick up our share of the sales. So if, for instance, DUI lawyer. Okay, that's highly competitive. Let's take an area by county. This is the other part, because you're figuring out how much angel investor money you have to provide for us to do the job. So first you're choosing an industry, whatever the offset is. Then, because we can't just go nationwide, that's way too big. That would require like millions of websites. You're choosing a county. Now, the higher the population of the county, the more expensive the project is. The lower the population, the less expensive. And I'm sure you understand why, because immediately the more the population, the more competitors there are filling in the niche, filling in the space. And therefore, the more we have to do to compete with that mass, right? So population, the counties. So when you look at Los Angeles, California here, this is not the city of Los Angeles, it's the surrounding county, okay? And the population in this case is 10 million in that county. That is very high. If we were to do the project there, it would be a lot. It'd be $88,000 to compete with DUI lawyer in Los Angeles, and that makes a lot of sense. That's expensive and it's huge, right? Let's do some math real fast, because this is important. When you go nationwide, for every 10,000 people, then in a year, there's about 36 DUI arrests. That's for 10,000 people. So by the time you get to 100,000 to a million to 10 million, you're multiplying that times literally 1,000. Okay? There are 36,000 DUI arrests happening in the greater Los Angeles County in a year. Okay, there are over 1 million nationwide every year. Okay, DUI arrests. So if you think that the average lead, when it's qualified and sent to a lawyer, is worth a minimum of 200, probably a maximum of 10,000. It depends on just how bad the DUI was. Was it a simple DUI, or was there damage to property? Or was it even bigger? Was somebody injured? Or God forbid, did somebody die? These things get really expensive fast. And every lawyer out there wants to be the one representing that client where the money is. So anyway, let's just assume something like $1,000, per lead, or $800 per lead, or whatever you want to say. It could be anything. It's in the millions. Okay. That's how much the lawyers are paying for their leads in Los Angeles as a, and they're actually paying a lot more usually because they're going through Google ads, they're going through Facebook ads, they're going through whatever it is, ads, and there's a lot of click fraud there. So they wind up having to pay for several clicks to get one conversion. Okay. So they might very well be paying $72 million on, just in Los Angeles. Anyway, that explains why the project's expensive, because to compete with that many lawyers, we're going to need to build something like 586 websites. Okay. And then if each website averages only one lead per month, each website only one lead per month, then your share of the earnings from that project over the 9 months of that thing actually getting up and running, because it's a year-long project, 3 months to build, 9 months to cash out on it, is the way we have it arranged here for simple math. Your cut is over $500,000, okay? $527,000, with that assumption that when we make 586 websites, each one gets a lead a month, and we're pricing this against just $200 leads. So our share and your share work out to $527,000 each. Okay. That's why you want us doing the project for you, because we know how to do it. We can build this. We can make this happen. We can get all this going on. And then you're in so you could get dragged along. See, we want to earn money, so we want to push on that. We want to make that thing work. And you want to get dragged along with it so that you can also earn your earnings, right? We're doing all the work, but because you're the angel investor, you get 50% of the proceeds that come off of that thing. Now, that's the way we've set this up. And let me just make this clear. It's not like you have to have 90K to get in. The next step down is the Chicago area, okay? Less to earn, but definitely a lot less cost to get into that position, okay? And that continues. If I drop from a population of 5 million down to like 2 million, okay, now you're talking 16, 17K. If we take this down, San Francisco, for instance, is something like 7,650, but it can earn you 46,000. So what do you do with that 46,000? You might go for that project for Chicago. See? Work your way up the ladder, right? So you can get one position here. You can get multiple positions. Same industry or different industries. Right now, I'm pushing DUI. And I'm pushing DUI for this reason. When people get a DUI arrest, they have to get a lawyer. It's not a maybe. It's not a let me consider it. It's a I don't care how expensive it is, I must do it. I just have to do it. Okay? So the lawyers are charging like typically $3,000 for a case. It costs the lawyer about $500 to deal with the case. So the lawyer makes about $2,500 on the case, minus the marketing the lawyer has to do to get the lead. So usually a lead like that, if the lawyer's getting unqualified leads and has to talk to several people just to land one sale, the lawyer might need to talk to 5 people to get one good deal that makes sense for the lawyer. So they might pay $200, $200, $200, $200, $200, okay, for 5 leads to get one deal. So they'll pay $1,000 to make $2,500. So they'll have $1,500 left over. And that's just the way of it, right? That's the cost of marketing to get your leads. But you know what they really want? Qualified leads. Except that hiring qualifying teams and getting all that stuff done with the CRM has traditionally been really expensive until now. This is what's changed big time. So let's go ahead and continue this discussion. By the way, how low does the ladder go? Okay, 350,000 in that county takes you down to a $3,000 position. Okay, and you can earn 18K off of that thing. Now, this is the way we've set this up before the latest change. All right. And even the pricing, like I said, one sale or one lead per month that gets sold to a DUI attorney, per website. This is 20 websites with one lead per month each, assumed, right? They could get a lead a week. This could be 4 times as much money that you would make. Except lawyers get aggravated when they have to call through a bunch of leads that aren't going to work out. So they would rather just talk to one guy for $1,000 instead of talk to 5 guys for $200 each. Does that make sense? Where the one guy they're paying for the $1,000 is pre-qualified. They are solid. They are almost always certainly going to become an instant paying client. And the lawyer did not have to do work to make that happen. They just had to pay a share of the profit to get the full amount of the profit, right? Pretty cool. So that's what the lawyers really want. Now, when people offer leads, what do? They say, hey, we're opening in your area. We're starting to aggregate leads. We've got to send them to lawyers in the area. Who wants in? Lawyers will be like, me. They'll say, okay, we need you to prepay for those leads because we got to see how many of you are serious, first of all. And second of all, we got to make sure to collect some pay before we actually invest in the area. And then, depending on how many of you say you want leads and you're telling us how many leads you can handle, 5 a week, 10 a week, 15 a week, 20 a week, we have to do the math on how many leads we need to cover all you guys and then create that many websites. So how many of you are really going to pay for leads? If it was just 3, we're only going to create this many websites here for handling you guys. But if 30 of you say you want leads, we got to make 10 times as many websites, simple way of putting it, in order to cover all the leads you guys need. So we need to know who's paying in, right? We can give you levels to pay in at. We can, for instance, let you prepay for 5 qualified leads. You won't do any work, okay? And they're guaranteed to be dead solid leads. You're going to prepay for 5, okay? It's not exactly certain when the delivery will happen, but the assumption is as we build this out, the first couple of months is the build-up process, okay? You're just paying for the prepaying for the leads once so we can know that we're going to build all this out and get this going. But then you'll be able to get 5 leads at $500 each. That's $2,500. So you pay $2,500, and as we get leads, we'll text them to you. And you'll decide which ones you want to accept. If you don't want that one, that's okay. If you want the next one, go for it. Okay? Until you've used your 5. Okay? Or you can prepay for 10 leads at $400 each. So you're going to pay, instead of $2,500, you're going to pay $4,000. But same rules apply. You'll receive some leads. You'll decide which to swipe and which to take. Okay? And so in the beginning, of course, we're building it up. So it starts off slow because we have to build it up. We can show you guys the progress, no problem. Now, let me not get ahead of myself because there are like 20 questions coming to mind, right? So let's start going through these things. First is this. Once we have this AI system running, right, this whole thing here, this isn't just about pre-qual. But because we can do pre-qual, what can we say to lawyers? If you want to see what it's like, call this demo number. And what they'll get to hear is the way we pre-qual the leads. Okay? So if guys are paying in, they can even let us know if there are certain aspects to the leads that they do or don't do. For example, DUI lawyers who don't work with cases that have to do with minors, underage drinking and driving. Some lawyers might say, heck yeah, give me those. Other lawyers might say, I don't want to touch them. Okay? Fine. Then in our system where we get to webhook these leads in, decrypt my leads, when we text or email off the leads to these guys and they decide what they want to get, and they can restock, replenish the lead counts, all this stuff is in our system, it's transparent, and it can be hooked up to this entire AI system. We've already verified all that. Then what's it mean? It means that we can decipher which notes apply to which lawyers to decide to give the right guys the right leads. That way we're never wasting anyone's time. Okay? We're always texting just the right guys for the right leads or emailing just the right guys for the right leads so that they can make decisions on the leads. And what do we have? We have a timer. If they don't make a decision on the lead, in 5 minutes, the lead gets resent to a wider group surrounding them, namely the other guys who paid. Okay? So the guys who prepaid, we're going to cover them first and seriously, right? And If the guy can't grab the lead in 5 minutes, it's perfectly fine. It probably means he's in court defending a client. And so if he can't take the lead, it's okay. He's busy. He's making money. He's doing his thing. He'll grab the next lead. And who knows? Maybe the next lead's better. You never know. So lead by lead by lead, it's just a crapshoot. But these are quality leads that are pre-qualified, so they are all worth it. Okay? Now, once we get the system and start making the calls, get a load of this. It's not just that we're telling DUI lawyers to listen to the pre-qual. We build the AI bot that goes out and talks to all of them about what we're doing and that they can elect to get in and that there are these 2 payment levels they can get on that and so on. So we are also building the bot that contacts them on our behalf. Okay? So there are a lot of benefits to this. First, the AI bots that are cold calling are closing leads faster and better than humans for a lot of reasons. Usually sales guys get tired. As they make the calls, they start to expect failure and they tire out. They kind of lose the luster, the tone. They try to take a shortcut to close the deal quicker. It doesn't work out. Okay? Not AI. Second, AI covers everything the way it's supposed to. Okay? It makes sure it fills in all the boxes it can along the way with the call. So that is good. And it can also show sympathy, empathy. You guys got to hear that on the accident attorney calls. And you also felt like you were being well taken care of, like you were being asked very good questions, and you were being assured that the right person will reach out to you. You don't have to take care of anything. They'll take care of it. They'll get the right person to reach out to you. That's freaking cool, right? Okay. So let me explain this. You get into a position like, let me come back to San Fran. I want to make a point. All right. Say somebody's getting this position for DUI, okay? And DUI, I am pushing right now. I want people to get DUI positions so we can focus on thinking about DUI, and the returns can be very fast, and I'll explain why right now. In any given area, like San Fran, there are like 70 serious separate lawyer groups out there, okay? Whether they're law firms or independent lawyers with their own secretary, something like that, and their own paralegal. Anyway, there's like 70. All right, so just to use easy numbers, okay? And there could be a little more or less. There might be like 110. There might be fewer, but let's use the number 70. I want to make a point. So say that there are like 70 lawyers, all right? Now, we want to compete. We want to make a lot of websites, but what do? We're going to contact them and see if they want to buy in at one of these levels. Whoever wants to prepay for leads is going to tell us how many websites we actually have to make. Okay, whether it's 51 or 40 or 30 or 80 or 100. You know, what do we need to do? Now, out of any group, like all the DUI attorneys in San Francisco, out of any group, there are about 20% at the top who are doing so well they cannot use us. They just can't. So sorry, but we don't need any leads. Thank you very much. Okay? Their game plan works for them. Okay? We're going to assume that they're good to go. They're not paying too much, they're not starving, nothing's going wrong. They're just out of there. So if we take this times 0.2 just to get the point, right? That's 14 guys at the top who don't need us. We don't know who they are until we call. Could be a larger group of lawyers is not getting enough clients to cover all of them, so they're kind of starving for leads. Could be that the one guy is not getting enough leads. Could be that the large group is getting plenty of leads. Could be that the one guy is getting plenty of leads. We need to call through them to find out who's interested. And the guys at the top may still be interested. Some of them might still be interested simply because we can offer them cheaper leads that are fully pre-qualified, which is probably cheaper than whatever they're doing right now. Okay, I guess all that makes sense. So at the top, there's 20%. Then there's the 60% of guys in the middle. The 60% of guys in the middle, usually they're like a roller coaster ride. Sometimes, some weeks they have enough leads. Some weeks they're just a little shy. Either a little over or a little under all the time. Okay? So they need us some of the time. In other words, some are more serious about getting involved than others in that group, right? But they all kind of need us. Okay? Then there's a 20% at the bottom. They're the ones who are the least web savvy. They have the least time for marketing or the least energy for running around with their cards. And so they are starving for leads, okay? Again, it could be a mix of single people and larger groups, okay? But they're starving and they need leads. Okay, so in any group like that, let's think this through. Let's say we're going to contact all of them and we're going to tell them what we're doing. We're opening up a program in their area where we're going to take leads, pre-qualify them, and send them off to them. And the benefit to them is that whoever is the early bird in this group is going to be offered better pricing than guys who would come later. And you guys who get in early get to lock in the number of leads you want, so that we're always taking care of you before we take care of competitors, right? We're looking to see who wants to open that door now so that we can get it going. And we've got our 2 pricing options. You can prepay for 5 guys at $500 each, or 10 guys at $400 each. Okay? So let's think this one through. When we're contacting them, they're going to have questions. So the bot gets to text them screenshots if they ask for like a traffic curve, or if they're curious if they can hear how the pre-qual goes, the bot can give them a number to call. Okay? The bot can schedule them with a live human to answer their questions. The bot can send them an agreement by email that they sign that says they are going to pay for this many leads at this much money each. And they're signing those agreements so that we have it on record in the CRM for all these customers, per area. We're getting the agreement saying that guy wants 5 leads a week, that guy's 7, max. They can't handle more than that, okay? And so we won't send them more than that and expect them to pay for them, okay? They can't do it, right? But they're aiming for 5 a week. So we're aiming to give them their 5 a week or their 7 a week or whatever it is, okay? The bots get to show all of this stuff, okay? And anyone who hears the pre-qual call is already going to assume that we have our game plan down, because once they hear that, what's that mean? That means that we probably also have websites that are driving leads to the phone. Because why would we go that far if we didn't have this to begin with? So the moment they're hearing those calls, they're getting the trust that they're going to be treated right, that we're going to take the notes down in their CRM for the things they do consider and the things they don't. And then we're still going to text the leads out to the qualifiers, right, up to but not over the number of leads per week they can handle. And it's going to show them the kind of lead they would want to get. And they can still decide if there's a reason they would skip a lead. Maybe there's something about a lead that goes, I just can't. And not that situation, for instance. Well, I'm not going to say it for instance, but I think you know what I mean. There are reasons you might just go, no, to a lead. But then the next one, you're like, heck yeah, right? Okay, so they'll use up their prepay, and they have the right to pay again at those low rates. 5 for 500 each or 10 for 400 each. Pre-qualified. How much are these leads worth pre-qualified like this? Easily $800 each. Easily. Why are we selling them for less? Because they're the early birds and we're giving them the huge benefit if they get in first. The cold calling angle on this is solid and easy to back up and prove and so on. And there are a lot of reasons why. One of them is simply this. We get to hear every call. So they're recorded and transcripted. So after we send the first few out, we can see how they're reacting and we can see what their questions are. If we're missing anything, we can make adjustments to our script. Second, there are caller logs, like notes, that are made for each caller. And by seeing the notes, we can see everything that got covered and everything that didn't. So we can just go through the notes and we can listen to the recordings, adjust our scripts, and keep going. There's more. There's a lot more. I've got to go through this one step at a time, though, or it's going to start to be all talk and not make a lot of sense. So let me start here. Okay. We're getting a lot of hits. Yesterday, 145 for lawyer DUI spread across just a few locations with a few test websites that we updated to the latest standard, okay? And the reason all these bars are coming down is that this whole chunk right here is today. And today's like not even half over yet. So that's why all these bars drop at the end. Take a look. Yesterday was 145. Look for the month. 2368. We're halfway through the month, and that's lawyer DUI. Here's the wild thing. Take your 2368, just to give you a dummy number, multiply by 2 for the whole month, okay, to give you another dummy number. Let's say 0.1. In other words, 10% actually call in, okay? 473. And then let's say those things are worth on average, you know, and I don't care. Do you wanna like knock the number down some? Do you want to divide by 3 and say 2 of them aren't even useful? But they are, of course, because guess what? They are DUI leads, no question. So I wouldn't even do that. That's times 3. It's not even, if they're going to call, unless they thought it was Pizza Hut they were calling, then it's good to go. Now, out of that, what do you have? These leads before pre-qual would easily be worth $200 each. Isn't that funny? This is for a month. Okay, that would be before the split, you and me. In other words, our crew and you as the angel investor. But let me divide that out by 200 again, okay, and multiply by, what do you want to say, 450? You know, if guys are like prepaying for leads, some 400, some 500. Now you got a number like this. You divide by 2, and this is what you can earn off that thing in a single month. Wow. Okay. Now, that's if you had a few locations or a really big location. Okay. There's some test sites. We did like 10 sites in 3 different cities to get this far. That's crazy, isn't it? So like 10, 10, 10, 30 websites got us that far. It's insane. Now, let's take a look at our package options, right? So if we're cold calling and we're making sure that people like it and we're offering them the prepaid packages, let's say the bottom 20%, that's 14 of them. Let's say 1 in 3 decide that they like the idea and they want to get a package. I'm just trying to be sensible. They're all starving, but we're going to say 1 in 3 says okay. And out of that, so that's 4. I'm just going to round it down to 4. Not 5, 4. Whole numbers. Now, of the 4, I'm going to say 1 buys the higher level package for $4,000. The other 3 buy the lower level package, $2,500 each. Times 3 plus 4. Notice something about that number. We were talking about San Francisco. And the reality check is San Francisco has more than 70 lawyers. But take a look. Just off that bottom 20% alone, we can get upfront cash recovery that covers this amount of money. Except there's more to this whole thing. Okay. You know what it is? There's a middle layer. So remember the number 7,900. I got to clear it out. Okay. Now, we got a middle layer. So 70 times 0.6. You know, just being clear, 42. Say it's 40. Say, I don't care what you want to say. Do you want to say 20% of them times 0.2? All right. So let's say 8. 8 guys in the middle say yeah to the deal, but they're in the middle now. So they're not so desperate. Let's say half of them buy the higher package and the other half buy the lower package. So if 4 buy the $4,000 package at $16K, remember that, $16K, and then 4 buy the $2,500 package, that's $10K. $16K and $10K is $26K plus, what was it, $7,900? We're at $33,900. Now, I haven't explained how fast this happens yet, or how fast it can. And there's more, which is a different thing because I'm going to use something to keep these websites cleaned and primed all the time, and that's this. After we go through those guys the first time around, and by the way, the top 20%, I'm assuming don't have any use for us at all. Now, we could be wrong. We're going to call through all of them. The average call is like 50 cents. And because the average call is like 50 cents, it's $35 to call all 70 of them with deal number 1. Then we're going to go through later to call through whoever's left with deal number 2. So subtract out those 12 guys, 70 minus 12, minus whoever said no, can't use anything, thank you very much. All right, so let's say we're going to subtract off 10, and we're going to subtract off the 12 here. All right, so it's 22 down from the 70. Okay, so like 48 guys left. Now, what are we going to say with those 48? Similar things going to happen. About a third of the guys at the bottom are going to take the second deal that we offered 3 days later, and then probably 20% in the middle. What's that deal? That they'll just pay $500 a month to be in the loop on these leads at those price points. Okay, that's for overflow leads. That's for whenever there are more leads than we have for numbers. Because as we build, we're going to aim high enough to make sure to cover their needs to maximize our earnings. But you're not going to be able to hit that number exactly right. I mean, who can predict how many DUI arrests there are really going to be that we can pick from every single day? So what are we going to do? We're going to overshoot. We don't want to undershoot. We want to overshoot. So we're going to overshoot. Therefore, there's going to be overflow, where the lawyers who signed up said, sorry, I can't do more than that. There's going to be overflow. What do you think we're going to do with the overflow? That's for the next round of people. The round who buys in at phase 2, the cheapest one, $500 a month. So if we've got 4 guys at the bottom take $500 a month, that's $2,000. Okay. And then we got 8 more guys in the middle, right? 20%, 42 times 0.2. Yeah, 8 guys in the middle times 500. That's another $4,000. So we got $6,000. Now that's $6,000 a month coming in. $6,000 a month. Now that $6,000 a month we're going to use to keep these websites up and going, constantly oiled and greased, to make sure to put them in directories. You know, if we want to, we can expand into social media, get some yellow pages listings in there, whatever it is that helps these websites do better. Because then if we have even more overflow, guess what we can do? Reach out to more lawyers still. Now, we need to get this system. All right, let me start at the beginning. Like I said, lot of hits, for DUI. And we can expand into other industries. We can push further. We haven't done so much of that. I've been really focused up here, and I've been focused here. And I was also seeing what was happening with accident attorneys and alcohol and drug. And those are great still, because this is a lot of money. This is a lot of money. But this is off the charts a lot of money, okay? And for this particular special project, this pet project, that's off the charts too. So it's really, really good. All right, let me get back to what we're talking about though. How in the world do we even reach out to lawyers who are in DUI for any one industry? We go to Yellow Pages, look up DUI attorneys in San Francisco, and boom, we get this whole huge freaking list, right? Some of those guys are closed, some are open. Of course, it's the weekend, so it's not so surprising. It says there are 163. I'll bet there aren't really that many. I'll bet a lot of these are like just duplicate sites or guys who close and never reopen. They may have moved out, who knows? But could easily be 100, 110. Whatever the case is, we could contact them all. As many people as we want to get them in. Now, the more people decide to sign up and get going, then the more websites we have to build. The fewer people, the fewer websites we have to build. It's a real thing going on there. Having said that, how fast can I grab all this data? I just ask GPT to do it for me, and I paste in the page. I literally do that. I basically copy the whole thing, like so, and literally copy, okay? And then I go to ChatGPT and say, do these, and I paste it in just like that and hit go, and boom, all right? I won't do it right now because I don't want to waste your time, but take a look. Nice and clean. See this? So simple. We know who to contact. We know where they are. We know what their phone number is. And we are going to sick the caller on them. Take a look at this. I want to show you what this looks like real quick. This is kind of so interesting. All right. I already started just sort of an ad hoc build, because when we go to get a professional build done, these guys know how to do the full build completely. And so my job is to give them something very clean. Okay, so that we just have something to go off of, and then they're going to help us really get this thing going hard and fast. Okay, and so take a look. See, the lines is like flow charts, and if the human says they don't have time now, here's what we say back, basically. And it's not just cut in stone. Okay, the AI bot knows how to arrange the conversation based on what they're hearing from the person on the line. So I've just been playing with this, but this is similar to what you heard with that accident attorney breakdown, okay? And so all of this is for us to do what? Get the cold caller to reach out and contact DUI attorneys about prepaying for leads for $2,500 or $4K, okay? Where's that lead? Oh, it's pretty interesting. I'll point this out. When we were doing dummy reads on this thing, okay, we were taking a look at the results. I even got my brother to call for the fun of it. And here's what I want to say. If we do a listen, we can listen to the call. Okay.
Hey, Dave, how are you today?
Not so good.
I understand. I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds like you're having a tough day. I'll keep this brief.
So anyway, it's not really clean. There's a lot of latency because this is not on the right server package. It's sharing bandwidth with everyone else, and that causes spacing issues, a delay in the response, which can be lived with, but the idea is you want to make the money, get the right package. So anyway, where we have our own server, we have our own lines on that server, and that gives us a few advantages. So let me show you something else, though. There's something called a read, okay, for transcript and notes. Check it out. Call notes, right? The context, who it is, what the prospect on the line said, their current lead generation methods are, online marketing, referrals, newspaper articles, banners. That's because the guy that was called said that. Okay, they said when prompted how they market. And they named some ways, and then when prompted, are there any other ways that they also market? They added some more. All this stuff gets added into the notes, okay? Everything, pain and problems, current challenges, not satisfied with the number and quality of leads that they have right now, lead quality issues, not happy with the leads, currently getting volume conversion problems, so on and so forth, right? So the more stuff that is added in here, the better the notes become, the more qualified the lead for the end client, right? And there is a transcript. I can literally see the exact back and forth conversation that they had. I can read it. I don't have to listen to it. I can read it. You know what that also means? I can paste transcripts like this into GPT and say, grade them. And very, very soon that'll exist in the system, I'm sure, because it's a very obvious value, right? Grade the conversations. But you can also tell by how long the conversation was. Okay. Now, having said all that, let me continue with this point. We have in our system, Decrypt My Leads, the ability to literally put in all the industries and all the locations, okay, and then assign the number of leads in the areas to these and flip these things on, and they're able to take on leads and all that jazz, such that when a lead comes and gets pre-called, the call notes get forwarded, they webhooked into our system. And from there, we price out how much in percentage or price out in dollars to add to each piece of data, whether it's main data or optional data from the actual call logs, okay? Now, by doing that, we get a full-on charge for that lead based on how qualified it is. How much information was given? How promising is it? And it's not that a lead will have hung up in the middle of the call and said, forget about it, but it's the lead went on and otherwise said, well, I don't know, maybe, kind of thing, right? There you go. But it still puts together what the value of that lead should be when it's offered. So do we have to offer every lead for an exact value? We don't have to. For our early birds, we'll do it unless we give them the added benefit of subtracting a percentage based on the lead being a little less than qualified. So that when we offer it to them and they're considering whether to take it, it's telling them it's offered at a 12% discount or a 20% discount, because that is how much information which was weighted did not show up in the data, but the person on the other end still could decide to grab that lead, okay? We don't need to waste leads because we're not just offering that to one lawyer. We're offering it to 20 at once, okay? until we have everyone caught up for their weekly quota, whoever grabs each lead. And then we offer them to the next guys, because once they hit their quota, we don't keep going on them. We go to the next guys, right? Now, is this making sense so far? We can send them emails and texts. This is text, actually. And then email formats, okay? I took a bunch of numbers out of here for the API connections. But the reality check is we can literally give them all the notes on the leads and the pricing, adjust the pricing for the lead in the text or the email. And if they already prepaid, they can just claim it. And then it'll ask them, are you sure? And they say yes or no. That way they don't accidentally pocket claim it. Do you get it? But otherwise, when they're running low on credits, they can buy another round. And when they do, they're given two options. You want to buy 5 pre-qual leads at $500 each, or do you want to buy 10 at $400 each? Does that make sense? So we're always offering that for recharge, but it's done automatically. No one's doing this by hand, okay? But it's always recharging pre-qual leads, okay? Now what? We can even do forms. The AI bot can give someone, when they're calling the DUI attorneys, they have many options. They can send them screenshots. They can send them an agreement to sign and send in. And that becomes part of the CMS. They can show them the phone number to call to see what the qualification process is like. They can show them a form, that we can offer that talks about who the client is, where the client is located, what service is needed, so to speak. In other words, what the issue is, and then any additional notes, and that could be sent in too. So the reason for that is even when the bot's on the pre-quals, it can do whatever is most important for each different guy. If a guy says, I want the form, then we can fill in the form. Even the bot can get this information, fill this form in, and send it to the lawyer for acceptance or not. And if the lawyer does not accept within 5 minutes, rebroadcast it wider to see who does want to accept it. Okay? And even in the rebroadcast, it's not always the form. It's whoever said yes to a form. Otherwise, it's the text to whoever said yes to a text. Otherwise, it's an email to whoever said yes to an email. And combinations work too. So if you're following me here, what makes this incredible is the fact that we can do all of this now in a completely new way. So what's the ask? What's the needs? Let me come to that right now because I have to, and then I have to break off for today. But here we are. In order to get into the system, as you probably understand, it's not cheap, okay? It's cheap per minute once we have a license, but we have to get a license. So getting the licenses, there are different levels, and the higher we go, the better it gets, and I'll tell you why. So for instance, at 15K, we can manage it. Then there's 25K, there's 50K, there's 75K, there's 100K. We walk up the ladder. What is the reason for buying in at a higher level? And this is why I'm not just running with it right now. Because the higher we go, the more benefits we get if we do it all at once. For example, at these different price points, they do professional builds for us. What's a build? Let me come back to this concept. When I was showing you this thing here, okay, I'm showing you a part of a build. This is a flow chart for cold calling DUI attorneys that we can use nationwide. We can change the city, call those guys by grabbing those guys, pasting them, getting a list together, and then putting it right through here. Okay? Cold call them. All right? Get prepayments, or at least schedule in the calls and prepay. Whoever's ready to prepay will prepay because they get it. Anyone who's like, I've got some questions first, can get on my calendar and we can talk, and then they can decide whether they want to buy. All right. Having said that, the whole thing is prepayments to have the money to roll with. Okay. Now, this is not a build, it's a flow chart. Here's a build. Professionally done calling out, professionally done customer support, professionally done pre-quals when applicable, like in our case. Okay. Builds can be for anything. Builds for DUI attorneys, builds for accident attorneys, carpet cleaners, credit repair, gutter and roof cleaning and installation and stuff. So roofing. It can be B2B, it can be B2C. The professionals know the rules for B2C, how to call through humans, people, and so that's built into the build. Okay. The build also allows the bots, when they talk, to be able to send notes. They can send text messages, the right screenshot for the right questions. They can send agreements by email. They can enter customers into a CRM. They can mark down things like the packages they're supposed to be buying. They can make notes. And that way, when we do the pre-quals, it goes back through that CRM on the way out, or at least that CRM, we pull that stuff into Decrypt My Leads, which we'll do, because we're going to have them build a lot of that in Decrypt My Leads since we already have the functionality there. And the stuff that they should have, we'll do separately in their system. But by putting it all together, what we have is the finished build. The build covers the whole industry so that we just hit play and roll with it. Okay, these guys are accustomed to this. Now, when we're climbing the ladder, they do more builds for the pay. Okay, if we come in at 100 grand, they'll do 18 builds. That means 18 industries, all of the flow charts necessary, one for calling out, one for customer service, one for pre-qual, all of them integrated into the CRM, all able to text, able to email, things like that. Whatever needs to be sent, and all of them able to update things. If a lawyer calls into the customer support and says, I was handling 5 leads a week, now I can go up to 7 leads a week, just took on a new partner or whatever, then the AI bot that answered him can say, okay, it can verify who the guy is, and it can go into the CRM and bump him up from 5 to 7, which triggers the webhook so that the entire system is updated so that we all know what's going on, right? That's nuts, isn't it? So I want to climb that ladder as high as we can, as fast as we can, and dive in. Now, I want to explain some things that are extremely important really fast, and that's this. When we're getting this going, here's all the reasons for climbing the ladder. The first is this. The higher you go, the better the server you get. Dedicated server all to yourself, not a bunch of shared connections trying to push their business through at the same time, just us on our server. What does that do? Kill the latency issues, okay? So the pauses between discussions drop dramatically so that the discussion is far better. Say it's 50% more useful, okay? Convincing, 50% more convincing conversation as we climb onto our own dedicated server and have more space, okay? Now, what else? Because we climb the ladder, they also take restrictions off on the number of calls we can make simultaneously. So instead of one phone number, one call, one cold call at a time for a few minutes each, we can have a few numbers, 3, 5, 20, 1,000, 3,000. There's a point at the 100K where they take the limits off. So as many Twilio numbers as we get, or one of the other systems that they have, we can run the calls simultaneously. Now, think about it. The more phone numbers you get, the bigger the server you need. Because you got to have enough RAM, so to speak, for all those calls to happen at once so that you can keep the latency down. The pauses, right? So if you try to put a bunch of phone numbers on one server, what happens is all of those phone calls that you're doing at the optimal times of the day are dragging, it's too long. So we got like 2 great hours to call per day. One is 8 to 9 a.m. local time, wherever. The other is 4 to 5 p.m. local time, wherever. Those 2 hours are the best hours. We can call through more hours. We can always test. We can push. We can see how it's going. But having said that, if you do one call at a time and the average call is, I don't know what you want. Let's say the average call is 5 minutes, okay? Well, then you can only do 12 calls in an hour. And that's cool because the bot does not need to take a break. There is no bathroom break, water break, or anything. So the bot can hang up, call next guy. within 2 seconds, bap, bap, like that constantly straight through. So fine. So you can make 12 calls plus another 12 calls in one day. Is 24 calls in a day. So it would take like 3 days to get through the 70 odd calls. And then we would wait like 3 days and then do another 3 days during the business days where we're going to call with the second offer to fill in the rest of the guys. Does that make sense? So, it could take like week and a half if you have one phone number. But what if we have 5 phone numbers? Okay. Then instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 hours, it's 12 hours divided by 5 phone numbers at the same time, or say 6 numbers at the same time to make the point. What happens now? Everything is done in 2 hours. We just did like a week and a half's worth of work in 2 hours. Okay. Upper end, guys who are using this right now, who bought in at that high end package, the 100K, got like 1,000 Twilio numbers, or well, not 1,000, I'm sorry, like 100 Twilio numbers at once, so they can make 3,000 calls in a single day. They did something like that, and they made over $370,000 in a day, and booked their calendar for like the next 2 months, something like that. All of a sudden, and it took them, I think they said they booked the calendar 30 minutes in. And they just kept running anyway for the rest of the day for the sales they got. And it was like a $370,000 a day. That is insane. And it may sound impossible until you do the math again. Sure, they did. Here's something else that's cool about the system. It's charging a certain amount of minutes or money per minute, right? Like 11 cents a minute. That's why I say a bad call is like 25 cents and a good call is like $1 to $1.50. Think about this though, 11 cents a minute. And it calls, let's say calls 100 people at the same time, and 80 of the conversations end within the first minute, before the minute is up. Well, the system only charges for fully rounded minutes. So you know what? Those 80 calls cost nothing. It's the other 20 that are running over the time that are the guys we wanted to talk to, which is the right thing. That's what we're getting charged for, but because it's probably going to pay us, all of it. Most of it anyway will pay us, surely. If we got our script right, we're good to go. Golden. So especially if we're working with the pros to get these builds done for the industries we want. They did accident attorneys already, which I think is great. It's just I want them to do DUI. DUI is going to be better. Having said that, we get to have that accident attorney script if we buy in. They already said they can do that. They can clone it for us. So the very accident attorney script, when you called and heard the pre-qual, we can have it. And so we can attach it to our accident attorneys, and then we can do the pre-qual or the cold calling to the accident attorneys to let them know that that's there, right? So that they can see what's going on. All right. So here's the levels right now, and I'm going to have to go very soon, actually. And so, oh my gosh, okay. I am not picking up, and I need to. All right, I'm going to have to break this off and do another recording after this. Got to go to an event, and I'm running a little late, so I'm going to break this off right here. Then I'll break down the ask, and you guys will see exactly what's going down. I'll lay out everything that's happening, how to get involved, and to know what you want, and the benefits, and it's all really cool. So, all right, I'll do that tomorrow. Okay.